now we're going to practice calculating probabilities of all of these events in a table. An event is just something that's happening. So the events, the things that are happening are here. We're going to look at flipping heads on a coin, rolling a 4 on a dice, rolling an 8 on a number cube. A number cube and a dice, they're the same thing, just another word that they use sometimes on math tests for it. And then not spinning a 2 on that spinner. So that's like a complement. We're trying to not do something. We're doing the opposite of something. So first, let's think about flipping heads on a coin. There's a quarter I found. I've got a heads, and on the other side, I've got a tails. So if I'm trying to calculate the probability, remember the number of ways, that's going to go on top of my fraction, and the outcomes is going to go on the bottom of my fraction. So how many different heads are there on a coin? How many heads are there? There's just one. Just one heads. The other side is tails. So now we need to look at the number of outcomes. The number of outcomes. The number of total options that we could get. One option is we could get heads. The second option or outcome is we could get tails. So there are two things that could happen. Our outcomes are things that could happen. There are two total outcomes. So if I put this in a fraction, my numerator, that's the number of ways I could flip a heads, is going to go on top. My number of outcomes goes in my denominator. That's going to be on the bottom. So that's it in a fraction form. Sometimes you'll see probability as a decimal. What's 1/2 as a decimal? .5. If you don't remember how to turn fractions into decimals, remember you just divide. Numerator divided by my denominator is going to give me that number in decimal form. And then how do we turn a decimal into a percent? We move it to the left, right? So we move our decimal to the left, fill in that space with a 0. So it would be 50%. Sometimes you guys might have heard it in a ratio too. If I said, what's the probability of flipping heads? You might hear people say 50-50. That means a 50% chance for heads and a 50% chance for tails. But we don't often see that, but you hear it a lot. You hear it a lot more in the real world. You don't really see it on tests and things like that. But if you hear 50-50, that means it's a 50% chance of it happening. Again, to go from a fraction to a decimal, you divide. Decimal to percent, move it to the right. To the right. Let's find the probability of another event. Like we said, we have this notation on the bottom, P parenthesis 4. That means what's the probability of rolling a 4 on a dice. That is a lot easier than writing what is the probability of rolling 4 on a dice. P of 4. So Miss LaRosa has this dice that she made. I like it because it's quiet because it's made of foam. I've got 1, 2, 3. Where's 4? There's 4, 5, and 6. All the sides are there. So on this dice, I'm trying to find the probability of rolling a 4. First, I need to think, what are the number of ways I can roll a 4? How many 4s are on a dice? There's only one 4 on a dice. There's only one way I can roll a 4. 5's not a 4. 2 is not a 4. 6 is not a 4. There's only one 4 on this dice that I can roll. How many total outcomes are there? How many total numbers can I roll on a dice? 6. There's 6 sides, so that means there's 6 numbers that I could roll. Again, the number of ways goes on top. The number of outcomes, or the total number of things that there are, goes on the bottom. Your probability will always be between 0 and 1. If you flip these around, like if you put 6 over 1, that simplifies to 6. That's not possible. That means you flipped them around. Your probability can never be more than 1 or 100%. Not too many people know 1/6 off the top of their head in decimal form. So let's divide that. 1 divided by 6 gives me 0.166666666666666. We usually like to round to 2 decimal places. So what would that be rounded to 2 decimal places? 0.17. Miss LaRosa's birthday is on the 17th. That's how I remember. So is Miss Montero's birthday. It's also on the 17th. That's how I remember what 1/6 is. Maybe you'll remember. Maybe you'll need the calculator. Whatever's going to help you remember. And then turning it into a decimal or to a percent. What's 17 hundredths as a percent? That's going to be 17%. We're not going to put this in a ratio form. I just wanted to show you guys that for flipping heads on a tail or on a coin, because I hear that a lot. A lot of kids tell me, oh, there's a 50-50 shot or 50-50 chance of something happening. So I just wanted to explain to you guys where that came from and how that is the same with our numbers. Our next problem says the probability of rolling an 8 on a number cube. The probability of rolling an 8 on a number cube. So first we need to think the number of ways. How many 8s are on a number cube? There aren't any. A dice, a number cube only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There is no 8. So can I roll an 8 on a number cube? No. There aren't any there. It's impossible to roll an 8 on a regular number cube on a dice. Again, how many outcomes are there? How many total sides are on this dice? 6. We still make our fraction. The chances goes on top. The total number goes on the bottom. What's 0 divided by 6? 0. It's impossible. It can't happen. There's no 8 on a dice. There's no 8 on a dice. This last one, we need to look at this spinner up top. So this says, what is the probability of not spinning a 2 on that spinner? The probability of it not being 2. Or we can also say it as the complement of 2. The complement of 2 means the opposite of rolling a 2 or spinning a 2. So first, what is our number of ways to not spin a 2? How many of those numbers are there up there are not a 2? We have 1 and we have 3. So there are 2 numbers that we can spin that are not the number 2? Out of how many total outcomes, how many total numbers are on this spinner? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total numbers on that spinner. So there are 5 outcomes that we could get on that spinner. Yes, some of them are multiples. But this 2 is different than that 2 is different than that 2. They're in different places. So each of them still counts as separate outcomes. So what would be the fraction of not spinning a 2? The fraction probability? 2 out of 5. 2 chances out of 5 total numbers on the spinner. What's 2/5 as a decimal? Use your calculator. No shame in the calculator game if you need it. That's one of those benchmark fractions, though, that hopefully we know. We get 0.4. What's 0.4 in fraction or in percent form? 40%. If you have any questions, please stop us. Let your teachers know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and move on. Slide on to slide number 4.